There you go. Real YouTuber stuff. Now that's out of the way. Put on your Viking caps. It's January 6th. We're taking over Indy Ball. I threw it out to the followers. I was like, yeah, what if you could change anything? If you were given all authority over Indy Ball or the league that you love, whatever the case may be, what would you change about it? And I got some money responses. And we're going to take these responses and we're going to put them on the grid, the big main 4 grid here, which is basically on one side you got good ideas, on the other side you got bad ideas. On one side of the 4 sides you've got this could happen, this could not happen. You kind of scale it. Like, is it a good idea but there's no way it happens? Is it a good idea but it could happen? Is it a bad idea but there's no way it happens, don't sweat it? Or is it a bad idea and oh boy, that thing could actually happen? So let's jump in. There was some good, probably like a dozen ideas, something like that. I probably could count it, but here we are now. I'm going to be scaling it. I'm going to be putting the scale on it. Not you. It's me. There's going to be a lot of opinion on this. I apologize for that because my opinion's usually trash, but at least I'm self-aware. So we'll start at the most popular ones I got some feedback on. And this was probably not one that you're a stranger to, especially if you listen to like the Indy Ball Report pod. And a reminder, Nick will be on. Nick Firestone will be on from Indy Ball Pod. He'll be on our show next Friday as the first ever Indy Ball Nation guest. Definitely take a listen there. He talks about it a lot. The idea of an Indy Ball World Series, a postseason tournament between the champions of the 4 major independent leagues. And I've heard this before. I want it. Don't get me wrong. I want it. But like, there's so many issues with this idea, guys. It's the travel. I mean, where you going to put it? Who's going to be paying for the travel? It's the lengths of the seasons being different. The different leagues end at different times. So what are you doing? Like, do you have to now line up all the leagues? Well, the start times are important because you can't start the Pioneer League at the same in April like you do for, the Atlantic League. It's Montana. Can't do it. So there's complications there. You got guys, they have an understanding of how many games they're playing, and then all of a sudden you're throwing a question mark in there, and maybe an added week probably with travel. With winter ball, that's another issue. I mean, we're already losing guys to their winter ball contracts depending on when your season's ending, especially in the Atlantic League, which ends later. Are we doing a series? Are we doing a series? Because here's the thing, you got 4 teams, right? So if you're doing best of 3, okay, so you got a 3-game series and got another 3-game series. That's if it's a short series. That's a week already. So maybe a week to get it all set up and ready to go. So it's 2 extra weeks on the back end of the season. And weather is happening because it's like October and none of the Indy Ball teams have a dome because why would we? I just think there's a lot of issues with it. And I know that might be a hot take because we all want to see it. We all want it. But I do think it's a bad idea and I do think it won't happen. I just don't see it happening. I was super negative about it. I mean, it'd be fun. But I just don't know how we would possibly get that thing pulled off. There's so many headaches to it. I do, however, and if you're a follower, you might know this, have an alternative. And I do think it's a good alternative. And my idea is the All-Star Showcase Tournament for Indy Ball for the partner leagues, if you have to officially brand it that way, which I won't. And this would be a normal All-Star break like you would have in every season except the Atlantic League for whatever reason. And it would be each league has one All-Star team, and they would send it to a central location one of the leagues would host every year. And it would be 4 games in one weekend. It would probably, I guess, it would be a double header. You take, so call it off day Friday, travel day, maybe off day Thursday if you want to get long with it. Go ahead and do a Saturday, 2 games. You would say random draw, that's fine. Say like American Association against the Frontier in the afternoon, the Atlantic League against the Pioneer League in the evening. The winners play each other Sunday night. The losers play each other Sunday afternoon, consolation game. So each team's guaranteed 2 games. If you'd probably do like some sort of like gimmick, like the home run derby. Probably do the home run derby as the tiebreaker, so you're not stretching pitching staffs because 2 All-Star games is a lot to ask. And I think it would bring a lot to the table. I think having the 4 league all-star teams, not just the champs. Because look, if you take a championship team, sure, they're going to have a good team, but you still got like some stragglers on that team that are just filling benches, and those guys probably ain't getting signed. But if you got the all-stars of the Pioneer League, they're going to be the best young guys in that league has to offer. Frontier League, pretty much same thing. The American and the Atlantic League, those are going to be a lot of the most signable guys. And, sure, they're going to have some of the vets who are just there. They're probably not super signable, but that's good because that means everybody's getting a shot to play against real talent. If you're a Pioneer League guy, what is the biggest knock against you? It's that, like, yeah, but could he do it outside the Pioneer? Well, put Gunnar Kynes on the bump. Like, let's see how he does against them. An Atlantic League stud. Like, If you can, that's the real spot where you can prove it. If you're an Atlantic League guy, get out there. You can, you're competing against the best that the American has to offer, and the Frontier have to offer, and even the Pioneer League guys. Give them see what happens. I think it would bring a lot to the table. I think the marketing of it is a lot clearer, having to explain to whatever market is hosting, whatever city is hosting, like, well, there's 4 indie leagues and they all have like these champions, and all the champions come here, and it's cold, but please come out. I think it's far more, I think it's clearer to be like, we got the 4 all-star teams of these 4 leagues. They're playing each other. Come check it. I think if you're a scout, all of a sudden becomes something that you really want to see because all these great players are in one spot. You got about 100 ball. You figure 25 a roster. You got 100 guys there who are some of the best indie ball players out there. And I think there'd be plenty of action. I think it's a good ticket to sell, and you could sell like packages for it. I think there's potential there. There are issues. Cost and revenue split. Teams within leagues can agree on cost and revenue split, like without drama. I think it would be a headache with 4 leagues trying to do it. It's a gamble for the better leagues. If you're the Atlantic League or the American Association, what do you really have to gain, especially the Atlantic League, who's always been able to be like, we're the best league? Well, now if the American Association comes in and punks you with their all-stars, well, maybe not. If you get upset by the Pioneer League because like guys got a hot day on the bump and like you guys can't get it going because you just had a weird travel day, like it could really hurt. You could argue it hurts the brand a bit. So that's something to consider. I could see leagues not liking that for sure. If you're the Pioneer, you're running the risk of getting run. Sure, we don't expect you to win, but like that's cool because like if you pull the upset, sick, but you could get run, man, and it could, I could see them not liking that. So that is something to keep in mind. And for that reason, I also think, I think that is a good idea, but I also don't see that one happening, unfortunately. But something to keep in mind if they ever have the opportunity to do something like that. I like the Indy Ball Partner League All-Star Showcase idea. All-Star Showcase weekend, brand it however you want, but branded Partner League, whatever. Semantics. Moving right along. Indy Ball rankings. We on it. Already on it. Hopefully we're going to have a vote. We're going to have some like people close to to all the leagues. It's going to be a smaller thing, and as a couple of seasons go on, we're going to sort of grow our voter base to have good representation across the board. That representation is going to be kind of general, like people who know each league really well, and then it's going to have to be more like hopefully down to like the team level, like somebody kind of around each team or involved with each team. I also have been cooking up like a sort of possible BCS style ranking. Yeah, remember the BCS? Explain it like more of like an equation, like based on how you do what your ranking would be. I posted like a sample of what it would look like based on just last season, not like weighted for like the most recent, whatever. People talked about it a lot and people were not happy about it. Love it for me and for them, whatever. But there were some people who were like, no, you can't compare teams in different leagues. Yes, you absolutely can. In fact, it is easy. It's easy to. We can compare teams in different eras. So we have stats for that, actually. We have numbers for it. That's what OPS Plus is for. That's ERA Plus. That's what it's for. We can compare players from every era. We can compare them to other leagues. If you're signing one guy in one league into another, then you are also projecting what he's going to do in this league. So if you can do that, you can, of course, compare the teams and rank them. I mean, if I recall, the big question mark was where did Missoula end up? Probably 17-ish. That's not bad for a Pioneer League team. That's in the top 20. It's sick. So keep an eye on that one. Good idea and possible and very likely because it's happening right now. Keep a look in promotion, relegation. Fun idea. Love that concept. Like, I guess what? You win the American, you go to the Atlantic. You are bottom of the Atlantic, you go to the American. Cool. Fun idea. Bad idea. Let's for a number of reasons. Business concerns. Yeah, you're a Atlantic League team now. You're trying to sign like a sponsorship deal, but like you're trying to get the city on board with some project you have. But like next year, you could be like a couple bad seasons. You could be a Frontier League team. Very different situation. That's not as bad, but like if you're a Frontier League and you end up in the Pioneer, that doesn't work. Everyone's out west. What about the travel cost? So it doesn't work. Roster rules are all different, which is kind of fun, but that's a headache if you're doing that. People wouldn't get what the hell is going on. You know what I mean? Like people would be like, people can barely understand indie ball. They're not going to get the relegation thing. Like, oh, now like Missoula plays in New Jersey 5 times a year. Like, why? That's fun. Like, no one's going to follow it. Like, if the team's bad, certainly no one's showing up, like wondering how the relegation standings are going. No shot. So, yeah, I love it. But no, that's a bad idea and it's not going to happen. Getting rid of the third strike rule. I think that was suggested by the Aussie King himself, Todd Van Steensel. G'd out. The drop third strike rule, if you're familiar, it's you got to catch a third strike. If not, you got to throw it down to first and get the guy out if you're the catcher. Bold choice. The rule, if you're trying to justify the rule, there isn't one. There has never been a good justification for the rule. The rule dates back to the 1845 Knickerbocker rules, which were drawn up for the game of baseball, the new game of baseball. I believe at that time, was that the first ever version of the game where the pitcher wasn't trying to get the hitter to hit the ball and put it in play? But yeah, the game essentially, there was the concept of you had to have like the end of an out was the ball being caught. Like it would always have to end, no matter what, the ball had to be caught to like punctuate an out. But that wasn't even the basis of the rule necessarily. That was from a German game by the same name, if I recall. I think it was also named like baseball, some version of baseball. And yeah, they just took that. Like they were like, oh yeah, that rule. And because in that game you have to like catch it to make it out. That's also what we do here. And now it's a rule. It's 2020. It is almost 200 years later, and that's the rule off of the Knickerbocker rules for baseball. So there's no reason for it. I think it's a good idea to get rid of it. It's dumb. It makes no sense. And it's actually possible. Wouldn't change anything. Stats would not remarkably change. It wouldn't be like, well, that was in the drop third strike era. No, that would not happen. So no, get rid of it. It's so stupid. It would be. Now you got guys run down to first. That's a high entry play for first baseman too. If you're talking safety, if we're expanding bases, pull it. That rule's dumb. Move right along. More than anything, this was this way. More than anything, I would want the publicly available StatCast data to be put on a Fangraph Savant type site. That's a great call. I believe multiple people sent me that. That was probably the most popular one, other than the usual Indy Ball World Series. I believe that was from the Honeyset on Twitter. I agree completely. I'm still acquainting myself with the other leagues. I assume the American has StatCast data of some sort, or at least tracking data. I know the Atlantic League does. And you guys remember the RoboZone? Yeah, you remember. So they had the ball tracking going on. Frontier, I don't know. Pioneer, I don't know. I'll have to ask around that one. But point being, none of them have it publicly available, which sucks. One, it's actually very difficult for the players to even get it. Like if you go to my Instagram, I literally have an instruction for how to you have to hack the URL, switch what the URL is, from an MLB game with StatCast on Baseball Savant, and take the game code from an Atlantic League game on the Atlantic League website and put it in the URL, and then it's why? What are we doing here? It's a very strange thing. So it's just bizarre, that whole process, and there's no easy way to sort that data. You can get game by game data. So if you're trying to do game packs or data packs for people, you don't got it. I know there's the other data company. I'm gonna forget their name. Whatever. Oh, I'm gonna forget them. Yacker Tech. That's the one. Yacker Tech's doing something, but they've been doing something. You know what I mean? So do it or don't. I guess they've been talking about getting into parks forever, but I haven't seen them much. So I hear good things. I know some colleges use them, but right now the only ones that have much I know of is the Atlantic League. I'm sure other teams have other things, but other leagues have other things. But yeah, man, it's got to be available. If we're trying to get these guys the best possible chance to get publicized as being very good and get data out and get signed, then that's no questions what needs to be done. It's a good idea, and it's definitely possible. The data's there. You just have to put it out and make it public. That's all you got to do. And you got to sort it into a different database, which is half a deal with Baseball Savant probably, or StatCast or whoever it would be. StatCast, I think, is owned by MLB. So you're a partner. Figure it out. Sorry, that bothers me, but continuing. As for the Atlantic League specifically, that the players and teams would need to be marketed more. Quote, Scott Kazmir and Rich Hill played here, unquote, isn't cutting it. Hilarious. That's hilarious. And agreed. Possible and necessary. In summary, Atlantic League's marketing is terrible. If you've ever heard me talk about the Atlantic League marketing, it's garbage. It's a shame. They should be the best indie league, and they continuously punt their communication. And yeah, they do. They just constantly post weird things Rich Hill played here. Rich Hill played there for two games, I think. And that's their big flex because he's pitching and he's a grandpa. So cool, man. I mean, I'd be more hyped that Ricky Henderson played here back in the day. And I get that he hasn't played there in so long, but dude, it's Ricky. Longer series and homestands, less travel for everybody involved. Not a bad idea. It's already done in some leagues. I know that. Don't love everything about a long series. I don't love if you're the first pitcher, you have to pitch against the same team twice in a week in game 6. That sucks. Now you're getting screwed there, bud. But I guess you just take your lumps, that happens even with the current series setup. If you play a team one weekend and then you go somewhere else for 3 and then you come back and play them, you're going to pitch against them twice in a row. Langley was famous for that. They had guys, I think Spencer Bivens, I don't know, it might not have been, but I think Spencer Bivens might have thrown to High Point 4 games in a row, 5 out of 6 or something so stupid like that. It kept happening, which, yeah, that's a rough one. With that, there was a similar one, actually. I'll go with the same thing. With that possible, I don't love it necessarily. I think it's very close to it's around the line, good idea, bad idea, but it is possible if they just wanted to do that. There's no reason they couldn't. And not have teams play each other over 30 times in one season if you can help it. ALPV mini 2 or 4 more teams. No, they don't. Nope, they don't. You can do it. They did for years. If 8 teams did an even schedule, what is that? Divided by 120. That's playing everybody 17 times if you play 120. So what, maybe max 20 times? The Genomes and Legends play each other 37. I might play 40 times. It's something ridiculous this year. That was a weird one because they try to match up the local teams to each other. And obviously in Lexington, they shared a ballpark, so they were local. And then there was some weird scheduling thing where they basically traded games out and they played 6 extra games against each other during the year to make up for it. It was a mess. It was a garbage. Lexington was a garbage fire if you can't tell. But no, the team should never be playing each other 30 times. It's bad. It's a bad look. And it's a shame, too, because Lancaster and Southern Maryland should have been such a hype series. It was a 5-game set. And it did work out because, it was a banger of a series in the playoffs this year. But, at the same time, we saw them play so much, before. It's just tough. Yeah, fully on board with that. And it's not that hard. In the Langley's defense, by the way, people last year did not like the schedule when it came out. They paid something like $10,000 to do it. They got on board with Johns Hopkins, I think, has the schedule making program that they run for a bunch of leagues, and they did it this year. Theirs is, if I recall, it's preference based, where you basically put in, you have a number of points or chips you kind of put in on different dates you want games, and then it decides who gets what home games, and then it makes the schedule in a way that's not a garbage fire. This one last year had a lot of weird stuff, a team playing in Long Island and then in Lexington, then back in Long Island. It's why would you ever do that? Longest, it's a 13-hour drive or something stupid. So yeah, that was not necessarily the league's fault. They put their faith in the wrong person with that, which is their fault. But it's easy to jump on them for what happened there. I do need to check their schedule a little bit better because I'm sure they have something close to it this year, but they are getting better, to be fair. Moving back, we're sort of finishing out the last couple here. Get rid of the pass ball rule. Oh, we're back to the Atlantic League. Yeah, no, that's got to go. If you don't know, the Atlantic League, I think, still might have. Again, they haven't announced what the rule changes are for this coming year, but the dumbest of the experimental rules. If it's a pass ball or just any pitch, you can just steal first. No. Players hate it. No one does it. And if I'm honest, I never understood it. It kind of poked a hole in a lot of things where they're these are the possible future rules and it's important to test, but that was never going to be approved by MLB Player Association. It doesn't make any common sense. So if that's not ever going to be approved, then why are we doing this? What is this charade? That bothers me. That bothers a lot of people. So hopefully that goes away. Good idea, very possible. Just tell them be no. Yeah, just tell them no. No more turf mounds. Hate it. They're bad, dangerous. They fall apart. Some guys, they use that unnatural surface to increase the amount of torque they're getting. So you got dudes who just deal off turf mounds. Dudes, I've seen guys roll out in metal spikes, just tear that thing up even worse than of course they already do. It just doesn't belong on pro mounts. There's the field playing some amateur ball, you got to get a mount out there that's consistent and solid. Sure. But it just doesn't hold up to pro mounts. It doesn't, that wear, that force that goes into it from a pro pitcher. Dude, Lexington had what? JJ Hoover out there, the big dog, on the turf mount. He busted that thing in a day. It just isn't designed for that. You got to really manicure it. One I've heard is High Point apparently does a very good job manicuring their turf mound. That's cool. I just don't see it as a good idea. And I don't think people like it. I think it increases the injury rate. Again, if you take good care of it, perhaps it doesn't. But we know about dirt. We know all about dirt. It's a solid. We know. We've played it. We've played on it forever. A turf field with dirt. I understand you can't move it to do your concert. Tough. Mark out around it. Put the little things used to queue up the concessions line there to say you can't go here. And then you're fine. Don't overthink this. Yeah, that drives me crazy. Because even the turf field's sorry. I know, nope, it's bad. It's bad. Yes, it's a good idea to get rid of them. I don't think it's possible. I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think teams are going to endeavor into that. Comment, this one here, I mean, there's not much to add to it. We'll put major focus into former MLB players' immediate access to be signed by clubs, pushing for heavier exposure of like potential former MLB guys who could be signed. I get that. I track that, but I understand it could be tough to like market. I guess it's a little tough to like market like guys who could sign here because every time that they don't, it's like, oh, they didn't. And that's like kind of becomes a tough sell. But when a guy like Julio Teheran, who this guy mentions, that struck a lot of people like, whoa, he didn't even know that was on the table as an option when he went to Staten Island last year. So that's definitely a big deal. I think it's a good thought. Add a team in Frederick, Maryland, and take the league by storm in 2023. I believe that was from Andrew Klein, Frederick's GM, and I think baseball ops for both Frederick teams. Crazy undertaking from him. I hope you do. Are you staying? We want to know. People want to know. The room mill is spinning, Andrew. We would love to know what's going on with Frederick long term. Frederick to the ALPV is a good idea. It's a good market. Also possible that considering the league could easily gain or even lose a team. So like, because, if you add Frederick, well, you're back to, you got Hagerstown. Now you have an odd number of teams again. There's a problem there. Not necessarily. They might be losing or gaining another team soon. There's a lot of rumors around that. Different conversation, different day. But of course, the marketing and branding concerns are brought up early in the show, but that's that. As for winning the whole thing, taking the league by storm, whatever, possible, but unlikely. The Atlantic League is super tough. It is very difficult to come in from outside and get it done. Lexington did that, but Lexington also had, that was a very different team that year, and they had some advantages with Brandon Phillips in town. Teams, a lot of the teams that start out in the Atlantic League are awful, and they're garbage fires. Season 1, Gastonia. Season 1, Staten Island. Season 1, High Point was good. So, it depends. It's quite the undertaking, though. I think that's it. You guys did good ideas, man. Love that from you. I'm definitely going to do that again. I'm definitely going to ask you your opinion more. Successful day of planning what we're going to do when we take over Indy Ball. So now, get your Viking helmet on and storm your local Indy Ball capital. I wonder what that would be. I should have asked that. Stupid. Drop in the comments. Tell me what you think the Indy Ball capital is. Shoot that shot. Try not to get on a list.
I may not have a lot, but I love what I got. A 4x4 and a good fishing spot. I hope this time my card won't decline.